What's that?
I guess you change the explain how you want it to read.
Yeah.
I'll give it along.
You just need to come in, yeah.
I'm already here. Enter the screen.
Hands.
Why don't you turn that one to you? Why don't you turn that camera on you like last time? Yeah.
I don't want to be on camera.
Okay.
I prefer not to be on camera.
Good evening, those of you who are out there.
Again, echo.
You're good.
Stand by. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I am your host, Kareem, and I'm excited to have you guys with me on this evening. We are got a great show set up for you guys, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you guys as we begin to move. We have Ben Crump going to be coming in to have this conversation with us, and I'm excited to have him here. You guys are ready for this conversation. We're going to get right into things. You know how I do. I like to start off by talking about what's on my mind. Rob, I'm getting some feedback. I'm hearing myself in the room. All right, so we're going to get talking about what's on my mind. Number one thing that I want to talk about right now is voting rights bill. What is going on? Sleepy Joe, President Sleepy Joe Biden. I was a friend. I voted. I tried to do what was necessary in order to make some change happen. This Build Back Better agenda has basically stalled in the water like an old Pontiac 64. But we now hear that he has said that he doesn't know if it's even going to take place, if we're going to be able to make this thing happen. There have been 400 bills with voting rights restrictions that have been introduced in 49 states. In 2021, 19 states have already passed lawyers' restrictions, restricting access. We've got to begin to do something. I told you all that last year. I said, what's going to happen is that we're going to do all of this stuff with all of these other agendas, and our main key agenda is going to fall by the wayside. And here we are hearing the same thing happening all over again. This is horrific. I can't believe it. I don't know what's going on. Do we have our caller on, Rob? Is that what you're telling me, buddy? All right, so I just want to make sure that we have a caller. There's only one person that will be calling in this time. We're going to get right to the conversation. If he is here with us, I'm not going to delay him. All this other stuff we can get back to in just a second. So, Rob, if we get a caller on the line. Hello, Mr. Crump, are you there?
I'm here, Kareem.
How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good, brother. It's an honor to be with you.
Man, it is such a pleasure. The honor is all ours. And I hear that, normally people talk about Michigan being the place with the cold weather. I got news that they were trying to shut down streets in Atlanta, Georgia, and that the weather's not so great there as well. Is that the case?
That is the case. Dr. Denise Mitchum and I are supposed to have a Martin Luther King program tomorrow, but it may be canceled because Atlanta has snow.
Man, Atlanta has snow. Y'all hear that? Everybody's crying about what's happening in Michigan, and here Atlanta is getting a taste of that good old frosty winter weather. We certainly thank you. Mr. Ben, before we get into this conversation, I got to make sure that I bring you out here correctly because, the world knows you. I guess you're a man who doesn't need much of an introduction, but I do want to read a bit of your bio, if that's okay. Through a steadfast dedication to justice and service, renowned civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump has established himself as one of the nation's foremost lawyers and advocates for social justice, earning the nickname Black America's Attorney General. His legal acumen has ensured that those marginalized in American society are protected by the nation's contract with its constituency. Ben Crump, civil rights leader, attorney, author, and media influencer, are protected by the nation's contract with its constituency. He is the founder and principal owner of Ben Crump Law. Crump's tireless advocacy has led to legislation preventing excessive force and developing implicit bias training and policies. He has been nationally recognized as the 2014 NNPA Newsmakers of the Year, the National Trial Lawyers Top 100 Lawyers, and Ebony Magazine's Power 100 Most Influential African Americans in 2016. He was designated as an honorary fellow by the University of Pennsylvania College of Law. You all know him for all of the cases that he has represented. Michael Brown, who was killed by law enforcement, Stephen Clark. These names go absolutely, the list goes on and on and on. He was also one of the advocates for poison water of Flint, with what was going on with the kids right here in the city or in the state of Michigan with the Flint water crisis. Probably most popular known right now, most well known for his work with the family for George Floyd during the murder case of George Floyd. I want to introduce to everyone that is out there in the city of Sacramento, Michigan Bay region, attorney, civil rights attorney, Ben Crump.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Bowen. It's quite an honor to be with you because it's people like you who give a voice to the voiceless and always uplift our culture and our communities.
Well, we know that you're going to be, as you said, you're going to be doing a program tomorrow with our friend Denise Mitchum, and you guys have an amazing cast of people that you'll be with. I heard that Stacey Abrams will be with you, and I think the CEO of Uber, and you guys are just doing it really big. This entire week, everyone's celebrating the dream, and on tomorrow we'll be a part of a program remembering the legacy of Dr. King. What does Dr. King's legacy, what does that mean to you as you begin to fight for the civil rights of so many Americans across the country?
Kareem, Dr. King's legacy to me is about not only remembering the dream, but taking action to make the dream a reality for our children so we can make sure our children, all of our children, have a better chance at the American dream and get to live in a better world. And when I think about the events of the last 20 months or so, you see that we're making progress, but yet you see we have so much further to go. I think about the convictions of Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis, Minnesota, who killed George Floyd. I think about the conviction of the white policewoman, Kim Trotter, who alleged she was pulling her taser and pulled the gun and shot Dante right in the chest. And then I look at what happened in Brunswick, Georgia, with the 11 white people and one black person juror who convicted the lynch mob for lynching Ahmaud Arbery, this young black man, for jogging while black, not in 1940, not in 1950, but lynched him for jogging while black in 2020. And so when I think about the fact that the majority of those juries were white, and Dr. King dreamed about a society that would judge our children not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, and see the humanity in all of us, then you see we're making progress. But we must remember, after George Floyd was tortured to death on May 25th, 2020, within 6 months during a global pandemic, they killed another 100 black people unjustly. So we're making progress, but we got to fight to make this dream come real.
Mr. Crump, talking about speaking on George Floyd, I personally want to say, and I know so many of our listeners out there, they followed us through this entire conversation and through everything that was happening. The world was paying attention because we had nothing else to pay attention to. But I want to say, I want to thank you for working so hard and so tirelessly to bring justice to that particular situation. I always say to my listeners that 9 minutes and 29 seconds changed my life forever. And when you think back on the George Floyd situation, and was there ever a time when you say, hey, justice may not happen? Was there ever a moment that you thought that things were not going to turn out the way that they ultimately should have?
Well, as a black man in America, because Kareem, I've been a civil rights lawyer for 25 years, but I've been a black man, a black person all my life. And so we know it is a lived experience, not just a learned experience, a lived experience that we can never take for granted, that the justice system is going to do right by black people. You can't take that for granted. I mean, we got case after case who show us that. I mean, on video, shot in the back, it don't matter. We can never take for granted that notion of liberty and justice for all pertaining to our black brothers and sisters. So what we had to do is work with Attorney General Keith Ellison, the first African-American Attorney General for the state of Minnesota. And I mean, on a nightly basis, Kareem, we were talking and strategizing about how to make sure those white people saw the humanity in George Floyd, and to say that those police officers didn't offer him any consideration, they didn't offer him any professionalism, and worst of all, they didn't offer him any humanity. And so that's what we had to do to ensure that we would get justice and accountability for the torture of George Floyd. I don't simply call it murder or homicide. They tortured this brother to death while he begged, screamed 28 times, "I can't breathe." And when you look at that video, it shocks your conscience that a human being can do that to another human being. And so I knew if we made sure people looked at that video and saw a human being, that we were going to get a guilty conviction.
You know, this is so phenomenal. I'm hearing you just talk about this case. And my family, they know this case changed me in a way. I always knew the plight of a black man in America, but seeing that particular case changed me in ways I cannot begin to understand. And I'll tell you what it did. It awoken the advocate in me, the community organizer, the activist in me. And I just said, we've got to begin to make change in the circles where we have influence. How did that particular situation, seeing a black man on the street with a police officer's knee on his neck, how did that impact you, Ben, as a black man, as a father, as a civil rights attorney? How were you impacted by that entire case?
Well, I think about how this video has been viewed by, they believe, more than 1 billion people across the world. And so you look at that video and you can't unsee the video. It galvanized people not only all across America, but all across the world. We got calls from Paris, France, Berlin, Germany, Tokyo, Toronto, Brazil. Everybody was calling, emailing, writing our offices saying, until we get justice for George Floyd, none of us can breathe. And so when you ask how did it impact me, it was almost as if we could not breathe until we heard that judge announce that Derek Chauvin was guilty, 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 because nothing else mattered during the course of that year other than saying we can't send the message to our children that this was acceptable, that Black lives don't matter. And so it impacted me on a very personal level because I have a 9-year-old daughter, and at the time she was 8, and she asked so many questions, Kareem, about George Floyd. They were talking about it at her school and everything, and she just simply could not understand how the police, who was supposed to protect and serve you and preserve life, would do this to take the human being's life. And so it was very personal, and with God's help, we were able to get justice. And the thing I often remind people is, what about the ones where there were no video?
That's right.
We got to equally hard for them.
Okay, and you brought up an amazing case. I want to ask you this question because I think it's really phenomenal. You have been coined and termed, not you yourself, but what Black America has donned you as the Black Attorney General. What does that title mean to you?
Well, Kareem, I'm humbled by it. Reverend Al Sharpton and Congresswoman Maxine Waters first started calling me that, and it picked up. The media started referring to me with that title, and I take it as a very great acknowledgement, but in many ways it's a great responsibility. My personal hero, Thurgood Marshall, he was lauded with a lot of titles, Mr. Civil Rights and so forth, and you always take that, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so with me, I am even more convicted to go fight for those who are being marginalized, victimized, and disenfranchised amongst us, whether that's the children in Flint, whether that's the family of Henrietta Lack suing for her genetic rights that they stole from her, and the pharmaceutical companies made billions and billions of dollars, and her children and her family didn't get 1 red cent of anything that is coming from her genetic makeup. Further, we fight for the people who are facing discrimination, in corporate America, and this phenomenon of banking while Black, where they accelerate foreclosures on our community. We have to just fight for our people with the blessings and the resources and the skills that God gave us. And that's why I was thanking you, Kareem, because as Dr. King said, we all have a role to play in this struggle to achieve equality and justice for all.
Wow. When I think about everything that's going on, I think about what you said at the top of the show. You said that since Floyd's murder, they went ahead and there were 100 additional individuals that were murdered. Is that correct? Is that what you said to me?
It was by the police.
By the police.
In 6 months.
In 6 months. Okay, now this is something new. I know that you are, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the young lady that was shot inside the department store while she was with her
Yes,
mom in the dressing room. You are working with that family, correct?
I am Valentina.
Valentina. And just
Yes.
recently, there's another. I'm just sitting here because I want our listeners to know that when you are, effective in what you're doing, and there is a purpose and a calling on your life, there is no sleep for those who are called with a purpose. Just recently in North Carolina, Fayetteville, as a matter of fact, there was another young black man, Jason Walker, that was shot by a police officer who was off duty. Do you think that white America thinks that it is open game on black men in America?
I think that white America was affected by uh, our previous president that made it okay to disrespect other Americans based on their uh, skin color and their class and their ethnicity. And so I think that, it's a journey to justice. We take two steps forward and then we take a step back, that we just have to keep going forward no matter what. We cannot ever give up on fighting for a better world for our children, because we have to remember they are worth the fight. They are so worth the fight.
Wow, and so I want to. We have two shows going on there. We have the one that's on the air, and I know there are a number of people in my social media stream that are listening. The community has really been waiting for an opportunity for you to come on because you are what we consider an American icon, a hero, and I say that because there has been long since I can't think of the last time since someone has really stood up for the issues of Black America. And I'll tell you, Mr. Crump, the thing that I love about you is that you're not afraid to use the term black men, black America. So many times we want to use the term POC, people of color, but you are not afraid to use the term black people. And I think that that is very profound. Why are you not afraid to use you represent people of all spectrums, but why don't you shy away from using that terminology, black men? To me, it means a lot.
Yeah, Kareem, I, I am very clear in my mission when I wake up every day in life, as I told journalist Ted Koppel, and he asked me, well, Attorney Crump, what is that mission? I said, every day I wake up, I assume the role of being an unapologetic defender of Black life, Black liberty, and Black humanity. And I am never confused what we're fighting for. And so, that's why I say Black people, Black men, Black women, and our Black children, because we have to let them know that we are not afraid to talk about uplifting our people, our communities, and our culture. And, we have to say it so much that they understand that just like they feel entitled to uplift their culture, we feel entitled to uplift our culture.
Okay, so do you think that America, when we look at America, do you think that America is coming closer to this dream? Or do you think that there are parts of America, like you said, with the previous administration, that did the bullhorn, the whistle, bulldog whistle, and has everybody coming from the hills and from the cracks and crevices? Do you think that we're getting closer to really envisioning Dr. King's dream, or are we having a major setback with the things that are going on right now? Are we able to overcome the things that we're currently seeing?
I think we can. Obviously, we keep making progress, but then it keeps being a journey where you're going to have some stumbles on that journey. I think, obviously, the reaction to the election of the first Black president of the United States was to give us, 45, who came and was the complete opposite of everything 44 was. So, you have to always remember it's a journey. Thurgood Marshall always talked about that. Johnny Cochran talked about that. It's a journey to justice. It's never something that is you get there. It's always you're on a continuous journey. You're always striving for it. You can never get complacent. We always have to be in the fight. And so I know they're pulling me away now, but it's one of those things where we're always in the fight going to the next battle after we achieve, what Nelson Mandela said, after you climb one mountain, you look and you see there are many other mountains to climb. And that's what we have to do in the nature of providing civil rights and human rights for our people, knowing that once we get to one mountaintop, we have another to climb. As long as we can keep climbing, brother, we keep lifting as we climb for our people.
That's awesome. All right, so when I think of you, we all think of you iconically as the man who defends America, the Black Attorney General. But you're out there on the front lines fighting on behalf of Black America. What should every Black American citizen do? What is it that we need to do in our communities? What does the village need to do to support the work that you're doing on a national level, that we can begin to effectuate that same change in our villages, in our communities, and restore some things that we've lost? What do we need to, what role do we play in supporting what you're doing on a national level?
Well, it's like Dr. King said, and I say this in conclusion, Kareem.
Okay.
It is, we all have a role to play. Dr. King said that the coward asked the question, is it safe? He said expediency asked the question, is it politically correct? He said vanity comes along and asks the question, is it popular? But then he said conscience comes along and asks the question, is it right? And he concluded that there comes a time when one must take a position that's neither popular, politically correct, or not even safe. But there comes a time when one must take a position because their conscience tells them it is the right thing to do. I submit to you and all your listeners, it is the right thing to do to stand up for our children. It is the right thing to do to speak up for our children. And it is the right thing to do to fight for our children's future. Because if we don't fight for our children's future, we can't expect nobody else to fight for our children's future.
Wow, I certainly want to thank you for your time and attention. I know that you are a very tired man. You got a full schedule on tomorrow. Mr. Crump, Attorney Ben Crump, my life has been enriched by this time that we have spent together. I want to thank you for your time and attention. And I just want to give you a shout out, Mr. Black Attorney General. Keep doing what you're doing. All of America, you are the Biggie Smalls of the legal field. We are rooting for you, my guy. Continue to do great things. We greatly appreciate you.
Hey, thank you, brother. God bless you, and keep lifting your voice to uplift others.
All right, we will do. You take care. Have an amazing evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. We're going to digest some of the things that we've heard, and then we're going to get to talk about what's on my mind. Stick and stay. Don't go away. We'll be back with more of Straight Talk.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
At Culver's, we cook our butter burgers pretty much the same as you would at home. Only the freshest beef will do. We're talking the highest quality 3-cut blend, no shortcuts.
What'd you say?
Then you'll need to master our signature
Yeah. Good comment.
This is crucial. You may want to practice a few thousand times. Add real Wisconsin cheese. Why would you have cheese from anywhere else? Top lightly buttered toasted bun. Serve yourself with a big warm smile.
Better yet, come to Culver's and leave the whole cook-to-order butter burger thing to us. Welcome to Delicious.
Big time.
Such a treat for so many families. Here's a hint. This treat is thick and creamy, and everyone can get it any way they like. Our fresh, frozen custard. We craft it in small batches throughout the day to make our guest day, using fresh dairy from America's family farms. Shakes,
People are funny.
Sundays, concrete mixers, flavor of the day. Oh, and the toppings.
Who says you can't please everyone? There's more than one way to dessert at Culver's. Welcome to Delicious.
Drivers who switch with Progressive save over $700 on average, and those savings add up. Imagine what you could buy in the future.
The graphics are so real on this video game console I bought with the savings from switching to Progressive 10 years ago. I can't tell what's real and what's the game, which I think is what people want, in the future, which it is currently.
So switch to Progressive and save big, because those savings can add up in the future. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive in 2020. Potential savings will vary.
Hurry into Mattress Firm's New Bed, New You sale. Right now, you can save up to $500 on our wide selection of top-selling brands. Plus, get a free adjustable base with qualifying seating purchase up to a $4.99 value. Or shop Hot Buys and get up to 50% off, like Sealy twin mattresses starting at $224.99. Or Sleepy's Pudding Nuggets, starting at $159.99. In stock for immediate delivery with a low price guarantee. Only at Mattress Firm. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
It's Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on Kiss 107.1.
Okay, we're back with Straight Talk. I appreciate you all. We had an amazing time and an interview with Ben Crump, the Black Attorney General of America, out there doing his thing. I want you all to know that I appreciate your listenership, your continued listenership. Terry, you put out there, your opinion of Mr. Crump has changed actually since listening to him. I'm curious to know how it has changed. I'm glad that we're having this conversation. Many people have asked me, when did you start doing a radio show? And it's funny because we have a lot of people that actually tune in. But over the past, at the beginning of this year, something shifted. And you guys have been saying, what's going on? We've been listening. We didn't know that you were on the radio this way. And I want to say this. The reason why we do this show is so that we could begin to bring in individuals like Mr. Crump. I made the concerted effort and the decision in my heart that I really was going to make sure that we took the level and the content and the content of the information that we're talking about on the show, really push it to another level. And so we're going to be bringing in people like Mr. Crump. My eye is on Stacey Abrams next because I think one of the great issues that we have in our community is this whole voting rights. And so I want us to make sure. But Terry, please drop in the chat. I'm interested in knowing how your opinion of him has changed. Those of you out there, what were your thoughts about Mr. Crump? He is the man, I'm telling you. But I want to get back to what's on my mind because it's going to address some of the issues that he has talked about as well. We were talking about the voting rights bill. And as I was saying, I was sharing with you guys probably since, what would you say, Rob, middle of last year?
Yes.
Probably the middle of last year, I was saying, listen, we got this new president, we got all these things that are on here that we're trying to get him to do. And my major thing was that I was less concerned about all of this COVID money, this ARPA, all of that stuff is good. But I could see that there was something that was going on, and the issues of voting rights was being put at the bottom of the barrel. And I said, we're going to fool around, mess with all of this stuff. We're going to do these things, and we're not going to get to vote. Do you remember this, Rob?
Yes, and without the power to vote, means to vote, everything else is just, no good.
It's no good. And so now we're in a situation right now. We got two senators. They are Republicans. They're moderate or Republicans.
Well, one.
Okay, they both. I kind of think that they are, based upon where they are. Honestly, Joe Manchin doesn't need a Democrat to vote because he has a lot of Republicans in the area where he is. And Sinema is actually from Arizona. So when we look at these individuals, they are refusing to turn away the filibuster. Somebody says, what's a filibuster? It's a process that exists by which another party, the minority party, can begin to stalemate the process so that no vote begins to take the floor, so that we cannot get some of the legislation that we need to get through. And so now we see these two senators not willing to adjust it, to alter it, to change the number of votes, because it has to be a certain number of votes for you to be able to remove it. We don't understand how Congress works. And so now voting rights are hanging in peril. We have seen it. I shared with you all of all of the changes, 400 bills since the winning of the election in 2000 have gone forth with voting restrictions in 49 states. That is almost every state in the union in 2021. 19 states have already passed 34 law restricting access, and we've got to begin to do something. If you always remember, we had on one of my other show, United States of Gray, on WSGW, we were talking about Sirius satellite. We were talking with Sirius satellite host Joe Madison, and he was talking about how he was going on a strike for voting rights because we don't understand that the most fundamental power that we have in our possession is our right to vote. Now, Terry, you said, I thought he was the new Alex Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, the attention seeker, wanting to be out front just to make money. This dude is in the trenches. So I got what you're saying, Terry. That would be kind of, I think, what a lot of people would say. But we've got to begin, absolutely, Fallon Johnson, if we don't get this John Lewis bill through Congress, we are done. There's the John Lewis bill, and there's one other bill, which basically offsets the changes from 2013 and takes us back to the point where we can begin to really, it's crazy to think that in a city like Georgia, where everybody knows you can fry eggs. We've seen videos of you being able to fry eggs on the sidewalk. That if there is a grandmother who's 84 years old exercising her right to vote, that you cannot take her a bottle of water, it's now considered illegal. And so these are the things that they're doing to deter us from getting involved with this process. Your vote is so important. Rob, what are you going to say? I see something on your face.
Oh, it's my job. I had to say what I want to say. So I'm just going to.
Is there any way that you can bring this in a way that is more palatable to the ears of the listeners?
Yes. A lot of this did not happen before President Obama. During the administration of President Obama, 2 administrations of President Obama, things were still kind of quiet, but still shaking in the background. Then all of a sudden, this tidal wave came through, and now we're seeing how a particular party, and people who love a particular party, a particular leader of a party, are acting like sore losers because none of this stuff was happening. We were already on the edge anyway, trying to maintain the voter rights situation as it is, and here we are again. It's just becoming worse. And I've never seen in my lifetime where the majority of states are all for this whole thing, so because an election lie is being pushed.
Well, and it's not stopping. This dude is about to run again. Number 45. This dude is a trip. But I need you all to understand something here. I need you all to pay attention to what's going on. And Mr. Crump said it today. Attorney Crump said it. He said that Donald Trump is the response of those white Americans who were afraid because we had our first black president. He was a response to the fact that we had a black president, that was called an idiot in session by one of the members of Congress that was disrespected beyond any other individual. Could not really do anything for anybody, let alone Black America.
Not to mention, America was still showing its sexist side because it wasn't ready for a female president, because it would have been easily Hillary Clinton. Regardless of how you feel about it, she was more qualified 10 times over, but yet America, not ready for a female president, chose went against her and voted for Trump anyway, in spite of what he represented.
Okay, so yes, Falon, you bring up something. You said yes, the clown is about to run again. I want to give out the crown clown. I often give out something called the clown crown, and that's for the individual who is the biggest, who's a clown, who has been seen as a clown on the national stage in our community, whatever the issue is. And today's clown crown goes out to Mr. Trump for continually putting our democracy in peril.
He gets another one. You gave him one before.
I gave him one. He seems to continually hold the crown. I need you all to understand that something is so very important. What's so very important is that democracy requires that we as a people buy into this understanding that democracy only exists, and we are the oldest democracy in the world because the players in that democracy, and we have political parties, we have an independent party, we have a Green Party, we have a Republican and Democratic Party, which are the largest parties in our nation. Democracy requires, and the threads of this democracy require that each party would buy into the understanding of fair elections, that when we go into election, that it is a fair election, that there is no bias, that when the voting is tallied up, that we accept the results of that. Now, there is built into that process, some things in case there's some irregularities, some real issues that we can deal with. If there was the hanging Chad, we remember back when Al Gore was, and there was a process, there was a recount. And when he lost, he accepted defeat. And democracy requires, and it hangs in the balances of the fact that we as Americans can be decent Americans. We can know when we have won. We saw Stacey Abrams. We know that she won. They went to this crazy draw, pulling rocks out of bags or whatever it was. She knew that she had won this election, but at the end of the day, she had to bow out. At the end of the day, Hillary Clinton, even though she had more votes, she had to bow out. The Electoral College is how we run our elections. And it requires that we as Americans are able to accept the results and not be little babies crying about what's going on. I need y'all to understand that we are in peril right now. When our legal rights can continually be played with, when they can make laws that adjust how much power our vote has, we are still seen as 3/5 human. If they don't accept the fact that we should have our vote should carry the same leverage as they do, we have a serious problem. And what we see taking place is that we see that one party, the Republican Party, and if you're a Black Republican, shame on you today. You need to cross over and change your political affiliation. I'm not saying become a Democrat because they're not doing nothing either. They can't even get a vote right. So I'm not saying run to that party either. But what I am saying, community, what I'm saying to my people is that we got to stop, and I said this on last week, and I'm going to say it again, we've got to stop affiliating with people because they're big names. We've got to stop allowing people to come into our churches and our communities and our schools and our community organizations and speaking to our people, and then they get name recognition, so they don't really need you. We got to stop running to the aid of people and begin to develop a strategy and young individuals who are inspired or have a spark to be involved in the political process. And we've got to begin to put people in place, educate. We've got to build in our next replacements so that we have someone that we can vote for as a community. And as we do that, we have to also, and this is why January of the 27th is going to be so powerful at KBS, we're going to have that community networking event. We're going to start talking about that urban agenda. It is time. They're taking away everything that we possibly have. They don't respect us. It's open season. They shoot us like deer and gazelle, on a hunting trip. So we've got to make sure that we have the ability to fight for the things that we have to. Now I want to talk about this because I brought this up when he was on the line. We didn't really go into it deep. There was another black man that was killed by an off-duty police officer in Fayetteville, Georgia. As you heard Mr. Crump say, after George Floyd's death, there were 100 additional black men that were murdered by police officers in a 6-month period of time. We cannot make this stuff up. We really cannot make this stuff up. Terry's out there. Our local people can and will make a bigger difference than anyone else. We have the pulse of our own city. And what do we do with that? We've got to begin to put people in these local offices, these local communities, because you're absolutely right. We see that nothing's happening at the federal level. And I can tell you that after this next midterm election, if black folks don't show up, and even if they do, I think it's going to be a slaughterhouse in terms of what takes place. And so if we don't begin to push upon our leadership now to do something with this filibuster, be bold, be strong, be leaders, then we are in trouble. But back to the story. So this young man, his name was Jason Walker, 37 years old. This is an interesting situation. He's 37 years old, North Carolina. Fayetteville is a city. And they're investigating this fatal shooting of this black man who was killed during an encounter with an off-duty sheriff deputy whose name was Jeffrey Hash. All right. Deputy Hash states in his report that that Mr. Walker jumped on his hood. Listen to this, y'all. I need y'all to understand this. He's a police officer. I don't know if y'all have ever been to Fayetteville, North Carolina. I don't mess around with them Carolinas, especially the South Carolina, because I went across the state line one time and I made sure I got back to North Carolina. But the deputy said that he jumped on his hood, he broke his windshield wipers, and he broke his windshield. All right. He's saying that he was just sitting there and this man comes out because there was a shooting. They were responding to a shooting that had taken place. And so when this black man came, he says that he jumped on his hood, broke his windshield, and then broke his windshield wipers. Does that even make sense on any plane? But the witnesses that were there, the passersby, the witnesses that were there, say that Walker was actually trying to cross the street because it was a busy intersection. And when he stepped out, Mr. Deputy Hash, he hit him. His vehicle actually hit him, which is how this young man ended up on the hood of his car. And of course, if you hit somebody and they land on your windshield wiper, he's going to crack the wiper. And I'm sure this man was probably upset when he grabbed the wiper and probably hit him like, dude, why did you hit me? And so Mr. Walker ended up shot and dead. And what was interesting, because they've released not only the 911 call, but the judge that is on this case has agreed to release the body cam. And in some of the footage that we see by some of the passersby, some of those individuals who were just standing around looking at what was going on when the guy got hit, they were saying that this guy, the police officer, gets out the car and says on 911, oh, this is a hostile environment. They're being hostile. And one of the things, like, don't you even start lying like that. Ain't nobody being hostile. There was nobody around him. And this is what happens when we as a community, we don't stand up and we don't fight for ourselves. We've got to make sure that we are on the scene. And I'm going to tell you right now, Mr. Crump said it, that how many other cases would we be talking about the George Floyd case? Let's say this, if there was no video. So what we have to understand is that technology has given us a great tool and a weapon, and we've got to use it. I'll tell you, I'll be on the road sometimes, and I'll see a black man get pulled over or a black woman get pulled over. I'll pull over myself and I pull out my camera. And I pull out my camera and I begin to video. And you don't understand that there are so many things that are going on that if there is no video, they're going to take the word of law enforcement because they get the benefit of the doubt. Mr. Bull, cases like this highlight local elections. Local prosecutors are voted in. This is exactly why I said on last week's show that it is important for us that as we begin to talk about the change that needs to happen in our world, we need to understand that change has to start on a local basis. There is no reason on the planet, and I said this before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it all the way till we get to November of 2022. There is no reason why we as a community should not have someone on the ballot who is challenging the individuals who get in and stay in office simply by name recognition. What have they done for our community? What have they brought to benefit our community? When was the last time you saw them? I already said I'm not interested in talking to anybody that we interviewed last week, Rob. I had the right to do that. If you don't like it, listen to the disclaimer at the end of the show. The opinions that are expressed here today are not those of the radio station, but Kareem Bowen himself. I'm not interested in having someone on this show who came and made a lot of promises the last election cycle, and I haven't seen them since. You know, you put in calls and they make these promises and nothing happens. Unfortunately, there is no longer an interest. And I think that we as a community of people, we've got to get to that point. And I will say here, black and brown community alike, okay? You know, we are a community that we get excited when people involve us in things. And some of us get invited to a table. We're excited to get, you know, in the room at the table. But you have to understand there is no room or table that you ever should want to be at where the rest of your brothers and sisters are excluded. And I'm going to tell you like this. You let me in the room, I'm putting my foot in the door. I'm going to put some paper in the lock. We're going to do something because everyone needs to come in. And if that is not the situation, then we should be willing to walk out the room and build our own table. All right. I wanted to say, I also want to get here and I want to share with you guys another important feature. There was something else that took place. We have students. I want to talk a little bit about COVID. We have students. This is all the stuff that's on my mind. In major cities across the country, we now see, I think they said that the number of COVID cases, it was like 289,000 new cases that we're seeing in a day, with like about 2,500 people dying. Not as many people are dying of this variant, this Omicron variant, but we do have a number of people that are being infected now. Now, this is what we need to understand. We don't know what's going on with this thing, and now they're beginning to see that parents who have children who get this Omicron, they don't really get as sick at all. They don't get very sick, but there are some issues that they're having long term as it relates to their autoimmune systems. We've got to make sure that we keep our kids safe. I saw Dr. Pam Pugh. She was fighting for continuing this mask mandate in Michigan. It was overturned. Why do you think it was overturned? Because we're not getting involved with that fight. That's not our fight. We're going to let the white people do what they do. That's what we say at home. We're just going to let them do what they do. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. We've got to get out of that mentality, because at the end of the day, when it comes to issues of health, when it comes to issues of access to health and the quality of health that's provided, it is our community, the Blacks and the Mexicans, Latina, the Latinx community, it's us who are going to do the suffering. When you look at the number of people that were dying, we were dying disproportionately, some places 5 times the rate of white Americans. And so we've got to make sure that when they have those types of votes, and we've got to get involved with our community, our county health department, finding out what's going on. We've got to begin to push the agenda that we want safety. So what happened is we had thousands of students who were walking out of the classroom. And they were walking out of the classroom because they said that they were not feeling safe. They were saying that they felt that there was a greater need for health screening of individuals who are possibly positive in their community. They wanted to see stronger safety measures as it relates to COVID and more testing. It's the same thing that they're talking on a national level. So these kids said that we're tired. We're not going to do this anymore. So they have walked out of class, and they're demanding to go back to virtual learning amid this Omicron variant that we have out here. Jeffrey Bulls, we have to fight for virtual education options, keep our kids home and safe. Let me tell you why you got to do this. And all you got to do is just go somewhere out in public. All you got to do is go in public, and you see who wearing masks. You see who's not wearing masks. You see who could care less about a social distance. This lady was in front of me, behind me, and I had on my N95, my KN95 mask, and I'm standing there waiting for my moment. Now, if she'd have caught me the week earlier, I may have lifted my mask and coughed on it. I wouldn't have done that because I was positive back then. Yeah, I'm just joking. But no, she was so close to me, and she was coughing, and she was on my back, and I turned around and said, "Ma'am, could you please? I need my 6 feet." She's like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. You guys are just crazy. It's just a cold." I said, "It's a cold for you. How many people do you know that have died?" And so if we don't begin to stand up for ourselves in our community, we cannot allow systems and government to determine what's best for our kids, because when your kids get sick, guess what? They're going to get shipped back home to you. And when you're at home dealing with what happens, if something happens to that kid, what those districts are going to say is like, "Oh, well, we're sorry that took place." It's time for us to get involved. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Don't laugh. I'm just joking. Please don't say, "You're a pastor. You should not." I'm telling you, I have a sense of humor. And sometimes people are coughing and too close, and I just need them to back up. You have to fight for your right to be heard, and you cannot give up the fight just because you think they're going to do what it is that they want to do. Now, I want to get to a topic of conversation, and this was not something that was originally on my mind, but I do want to spend the last 10 minutes talking about this with my community. Here in the Saginaw community, we are ARPA funds are coming in, and we've got millions of dollars. I talked to you all that we need housing and population growth. Those are the two things. We got to get that number at least back up over 50,000 residents in the city of Saginaw. And we also have to build what we term affordable housing. I told y'all about that. If you didn't get it, go back and listen to that. But it has to be affordable for the community, right? But as we're doing this, we also have ARPA dollars that are also gonna go toward this new school. We have a school that we passed the millage bond. School's going up. I'm extremely excited. There has been a great some combat going on, verbal combat, in terms of what we named this new school. Now, I just want to hear from you all that are out there. Jeffrey Bulls, I see you out there. Someone said they saw you on the news. I saw that one of the reporters was also requesting to speak to another gentleman who no longer lives here but went to Saginaw High School. Where are we at as a community as it relates to the naming of the school? So the issue comes around the naming of the schools. And I believe there was a survey that went out, and the survey said that they were not interested in looking to hold on to any of the previous names, which means Saginaw High and Arthur Hill are disqualified as names for that. Now, my thing was, I'd let people decide, whatever you want to name it, name it. But so there has been this grassroots operation that's taking place on the renaming of the school. And I just want to, I'm gonna give you my 2 cents, which is not the most popular. And I'll tell you right now, I didn't go to Arthur Hill or Saginaw, so I don't have a fondness for either one of them. I have family members that went to both of them. And so I tend to think, and I think this is what anybody's thinking, that when you're bringing something new, you're hoping to change the tide. That you're going to bring, there's a new restaurant in town called the Tangy Crab, and it was funny because I was talking with somebody. We're going to get to that, Jeff. I was talking to somebody about the restaurant, and I went in and talked. Oh, they're like, yeah. I said, so this is a new restaurant in town? They said, yeah, we used to be called Cajun Crab. So it was a new restaurant that came into town, new location, because they were moving from one location to the next. And they changed the name to go along with this. And now they're a new restaurant, and they're doing extremely well in the same location, changing the menu, but it's the same restaurant, new name, new identity with a new location. Having said that, I want to put up these comments that you guys are throwing out there. Let me know what you guys have to say. Just wait. Just want a fair process that considers all options. All options. I got you, Jeff. Terry Reed is out there. What you didn't go to Saginaw High. Friendship is over. Hey, listen, this is what I got to tell you. I'm going to say this, and I'll say this boldly. I didn't go to either Saginaw High or Arthur. I went to Ricker and to Clater and to CC Coulter and to all of the other, city schools, but I didn't graduate from that school. But what I will say is that my heart for my community has always been with the city of Saginaw. I fight for the city of Saginaw because at the end of the day, as the city goes, so goes the rest of us. So you can be from Bridgeport or from any of them other places or whatever it is. But the fact of the matter is, as the city of Saginaw goes, so goes the rest of this region. And we see them coming in and embarking upon the territory of our community. If you see me on social media, you see the air quotes. I mean what I said. They're embarking upon our community. And we have to make sure that as this takes place, that we don't lose our community. I was having a conversation with Terry out there. There were some things that he was looking at and some things that he wanted to get involved in. We got to get involved with what's happening in the city. If there's issues, I was told that the city wants to work with those of you who are land bank or who wants to get some of those properties out of the land bank. So let's have some communication. I'll make sure that you get the names of the people that you need to talk to, because that land bank is there for the city of Saginaw. And it should not be playing favoritism with what's going on, and it should not have any options. But back to the name of the school. So this is the thought, okay? I spoke with some students from SASA, because one of the thoughts was we named the school at the new school. Of course, they wouldn't want the new school. They want the old school. The new school would be called Saginaw High School. Okay, they would keep that same name. And the name of the school, which would be the School of the Gifted, because Handley and SAS are coming together, which were our advanced students on the Arthur Hill School, would be called Saginaw Arthur Hill. And they came up with something that remained SAS or whatever. Saginaw Arthur Hill Science Academy or whatever it was. But this is the thing. I was speaking with some students from SASA, because I work with some students from SASA, and they were saying that they don't understand how either of them could actually say that, because they have been at SASA since they've been in elementary, or since they graduated from elementary school at Handley. From Handley to SASA, they've never been to Arthur Hill or Saginaw High. So why should their school name be forgotten about in the history of the community? And so they were saying that they believe that their school, SASA, should keep its name SASA. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we'll see what's taking place. All right, Philine, you have a seat at the table, period, like A. Philip Randolph said. I'm not sure what that means, my man, but praise God. Terry Reed, the sad thing is that it's subtle movements that are taking place, and we're missing it. We won't have an East Side if they have their way. Now, I want to say this to you. I'm going to say this once, and I said this before. There is a plan at play. You need to understand this community. And I need to get this real with you all. There is a plan in play. And as I was speaking, and I had Rush D. Williams, I think he came in the stream, and we were talking about, so where are they coming up with these numbers, these figures? Well, I'll tell you, I think that the powers that be, they all have a desire to see Saginaw to be better. And what you need to understand is that when certain visions of what better means to certain people in the community may not necessarily include you. I don't think that there's anyone out there nefarious trying to take over, but no, they're doing what they think is best now. I'm going to tell you, wherever there is a riverfront, we don't love our riverfront. We are dirty. There's nothing. There's the hobos down there. But I'm going to tell you, all you have to, wherever there is water, the city water, it serves a number of people. There are people in communities that buy the water from the city, because that water is a valuable source. When you think about living arrangements, when you think about building condos and apartment, waterfront properties have a great value. And there is a reason why when you see key companies, when you see the Garbers of this world make a move from out in the township to the east side of the city of Saginaw, you have to already understand in your mind, and these are friends of mine, people I consider friends, that there's already a plan in mind for what's happening down the road 20 years. Because individuals who are keen and smart businessmen, they're not going to move their establishments that are growing, multi-billion-dollar establishments, to a location where it threatens their future or potential growth. So what I'm saying here, and I need you to listen, is that when you see those kind of movements taking place in your community, there has already been established within that community with the governments and with the law enforcement and with the powers that be, that there's going to be a cleanup that's going to take place. Otherwise, I'm not moving to that location. Now, there are some great tax incentives and tax breaks that are there that many of them would like that have taken advantage of. But you've got to understand that if they're moving into your community, and we've seen that happen, we've seen a number of key players in our community, when they move to that location, when they come in, you have to understand that the plan for their success is a 20-year process down the road. They're not even looking at 10 years. They're looking at what will we look like in 20 years. So after those things took place, the next thing that we saw take place is that there was a land grab for things that were around the downtown corridor. Now, some things may look dilapidated in your community, but I'm going to tell you, they are not for sale. There is very little of anything that is for sale in the city of Saginaw as it relates to free property. And you need to understand that is true. I want to talk to you really quick, Valerie Banks, read about that, what you're saying. Jeffrey Bull says, if the names of Arthur Hill and Saginaw High go away, we lose millions of endowment dollars. As a taxpayer, you can't ask me for $100 million for new buildings, but throw millions away in endowment dollars. Doesn't make sense. And I'm going to tell you right now, Jeff, if you're going to make a claim, the political claim, the financial claim is the one to make. All right, Valerie Banks. Now you're talking something that was very important. She says that it started with the Bancroft and the Yeti bidding. It actually started before them, but that was a key piece. The Bancroft was a crown jewel. They decided to go with the outside city agreement. Mrs. McKinney was interested in doing development with that building. Our Savior City rep son, Jason Richardson, was interested, and they did outside building, which has been sold a number of times. We need to get it back for the city of Saginaw. Those of you out there, I want to thank you for tuning in for this conversation. This has been absolutely magnificent. Let's get back on next week. On next week, we'll solidify the conversation about what's going to take place at that community networking event. I want to thank each and every one of you for your time and attention. It's been an amazing evening for me and for all of you. Take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you all. Grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen by the host, its guests, or call-ins do not necessarily represent the opinion of this station, the staff, its owners, Alpha Media USA, or its advertisers.